Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Haribol. Very nice, everyone. Thank you for chanting with me.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. And it's always nice to be on this forum. Thank you for this opportunity. Actually, I'm traveling this week. It was a very busy week for me. It is very busy at work. I'm actually traveling to Kumbh Mela. I'm going on Friday. And I didn't realize that, there's a common WhatsApp group where Simeshwar Prabhu sends messages to few of us devotees. I think we have like 20 people on that group. And you have to give class on this day. You have to give class on this day. And I'd seen it way back, but I completely forgot that this was on February 3rd. So I just saw it yesterday or the day before, and my Prabhu was traveling, so I was so busy, but I did get some time to to read up this afternoon, and I was like, we should not leave this opportunity of glorifying the Lord. So here I am amongst all of you wonderful devotees. I know you are all so sincere. You're here every day at 7 o'clock and also joining the morning Bhagavatam class. So it's a privilege to be with all of you, and really thankful for this opportunity. So today I'm going to share my screen. We are going to read from. How do we share screen on this one? Yeah. So we are reading from. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Perfect. Yeah. So we are reading from Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, verse number 17, chapter 2. And what we'll do is we'll recite the verse, the translation purport, and then we'll speak a little bit about the verse. Also, tomorrow is Advaita Acharya's appearance day. So I thought it was very timely to speak about him today. So I will also speak about him mostly on this class today, so we can glorify Advaita Acharya and remember his pastimes. So we'll read the verse. Now there is no, typically the translation is, the script is in Hindi or like it's in Sanskrit, but it's very similar to Hindi or Marathi, so it's easy to read. But we'll read the English from here and then we'll go on. So Munayo Vata Vasannaha. You can repeat after me.
Munayo Vatavasnaha
Shramana Gurtu Mantinaha.
Svarana Uddhava Mantinaha
Brahma Akhyam Dharmati Yanti.
Brahma Akyam Dhamate Yanti
Santaha Sannyasino Malaha.
Santaha Sannyasino Malaha
Munaya saints.
Munaya strings
Vata Vansanaha naked.
Vata Vansana naked
Smanaha
Varnaha
who performs severe physical penances.
Who performs severe physical penances.
Urdhava raised up.
Uddhava raised up
Mantinaha whose semen.
Mantinaha whose semen
Brahma Akhyam known as Brahma Loka.
Brahma
Akyam known as Brahma Loka.
Dhamma to the abode.
Dhamma
to be abode.
They Yanti go. Santaha equipoised in Brahman.
Santaha equipoised in Brahman.
Sannyasiha
Sannyasina
who are in the renounced order of life.
Who are in the renounced order of life.
Amalaha pure.
Amala pure.
All right, so I'll read the translation and purport. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Naked saints and sannyasis who undergo severe physical penances, who can raise the semen to the brain, and who are completely equipoised in Brahman can live in the realm known as Brahmaloka. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.6.47, Vatavasanaha refers to the mendicants who do not care about anything material, including clothing, but who depend wholly on nature. Such sages do not cover their bodies even in severe winter or scorching sunshine. They take great pains not to avoid any kind of bodily sufferings, and they live by begging from door to door. They never discharge their semen, either knowingly or unknowingly. By such celibacy, they are able to raise the semen to the brain. Thus, they become more intelligent and develop very sharp memories. Their minds are never disturbed or diverted from contemplation on the supreme truth, nor are they ever contaminated by desire of material enjoyment. By practicing austerities under strict discipline, such mendicants attain a neutral state transcendental to the modes of nature and merge into the impersonal Brahman. So we'll chant our prayers before I can speak on this. Om Jnana Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Sajivam Tasvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So like I mentioned, I'm going to this Prayagraj for Kumbh Mela this Friday. And I'm actually very, I was reading about Prabhupada had mentioned that there are sages who come there who are like hundreds of years old, right? But they're still looking like 25 years old. And they come there. There are these Naga Babas, and there are people who have committed so many austerities, like they live in the Himalayas in the cold winter. And we don't see them any other time. But after 12 years, they come where the Kumbh Mela is happening. And you can see them there, right? And this time the Kumbh Mela is very, very special because it's happening after 144 years. So I'm very excited to go there and see all these saints and sannyasis. And actually, it says, this verse says, right? There's naked saints and sannyasis who have undergone severe physical penances, and they are coming there. However, we have to understand that it's good to have these penances and live for hundreds of years and whatever, but we have to understand that we are so fortunate, right, that we are able to get Krishna prema without committing, without having committed to so many austerities. Like, we're not living in Himalayas. We are not like, with minimal clothes and, not eating or drinking for years, right? Yeah, we do Ekadashi, a little bit austerity there. We get up in the morning, we chant our rounds, we follow the four regulative principles. And, at the end of it, we are not like merging into the Brahman, like what the aim of all of these saints and sannyasis is. At the end, our aim is to get love of Krishna and go back to his kingdom. So, that service, like, that is way more higher than doing all these penances and austerities just to want to merge with God, right? But because at the end of the day, you can merge into the effulgence of the Lord, but you will fall down. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that if you ever come back to my realm, which we can by following, in the process of bhakti and by the mercy of our Guru and Gauranga, if we can go back to Godhead after this lifetime or after multiple lifetimes, we will never come back, right? We will get the pure love of God and we will be there with Him. So it is a very simple verse today. It's not a very complicated verse. It clearly says that, there are all these saints and sannyasis who are committing, who are doing all these severe penances. And at the end of it, they want to go back into, they go back to Brahmaloka, or merge into the Supreme. And like I mentioned, tomorrow is Advaita Acharya's appearance day, and actually I wanted to focus our attention there and really wanted to talk about Advaita Acharya. So do we know who is Advaita Acharya? Like on the Panchatattva, where is he? Where can we find him? Anybody on the call?
We find next to Nityanand Prabhuji.
Yeah. And he's like the most elderly person in all of the Panchatattva, right? So you see, when any incarnation comes, so like, Ram comes, Krishna comes, or Lord Chaitanya comes, they come with a purpose, right? Like Ram comes that, okay, there's a purpose of, killing Ravana. He builds the Ram Setu. Krishna comes, he kills, um, uh, he kills Kamsa and then liberates, releases his parents. There are so many pastimes he's done. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes with the purpose of giving love of Godhead to the most unqualified people. Like typically to get something, we need some qualification, right? Like you to get a job, you need to have some level of qualification. To get into an Ivy League, you need to have some kind of qualification. You have to have a certain kind of GPA. You have to have certain kind of extracurricular. You have to be good in something. Then you get into Ivy League, you graduate, and then you have to be at a certain caliber to get into the top companies of the world, right? But for us, we have no qualification. The only reason why we are here is because of Lord Chaitanya. And today we'll understand that how Lord Chaitanya even appeared, and that is through the mercy of Advaita Acharya. So, there is this nice bhajan, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. It's very dear to me. So we see that Advaita Chandra. So Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Shri Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So the main two um, main two branches of this bhakti tree are Advaita Acharya and Nityanand Mahaprabhu, right? So Krishna, he has manifested in 5 forms, right? Before we chant any mantra, before we chant a Hare Krishna mantra, we chant the Panchatattva mantra, right? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. And, so if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Adi Leela 7.6, there is a verse, Panchatattvam Krishnam, Bhaktya Rupa Swarupakam, Bhaktatma Bhaktya Sakhyam, Namami Bhakta Shaktikam, right? So what this verse is, and it's a very important verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Bhakta Rupam, so who is this Bhakta Rupam? Bhakta Rupam is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And who is Bhakta Swarupa is Nityananda Mahaprabhu. And Bhakta Avtara is Advaita Acharya. And then you also have Bhaktatkam, right? Who's known as a devotee. And that is Sri Shivas Pandit. I'm sorry?
Radharani, Gadadhar, and then Srivasta is the Radharani.
Yeah, Mataji. So I'll ask you, let me speak and then I'll open up for questions, Mataji. I get distracted when someone speaks in middle. So Bhaktakam is a devotee who is Srivasa Thakur, and Bhakta Shakti is Gadadhar Pandit. So we have all these 5 elements which are part of the Panchatattva. And this verse is so important. It kind of tells us who is who, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he comes as a bhakta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Krishna and Radharani. Then we have Nityananda Mahaprabhu, who is Balram, but he's also Anang Manjari. Anang Manjari is a sister of Radharani. And then you have Advaita Acharya, who is a Bhakta Avtara. And then you have Bhakta Bhaktyaksham, who is a devotee, who is Srivas Pandit, and you have Bhakta Shakti, who is Gadadhar Pandit. And like I was mentioning, there is no qualification that is required here. Because what happens is when Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita in 18.66, he says, Sarva dharman paritajya mamevam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshami masucha. So what Krishna is saying is just abandon all type of religion and surrender unto me. But we can't do that, right? It's not possible for us. How do we surrender? We don't know the details. We don't know how to do this. So that's why he comes down as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's called Mahavadanaya. He's full of mercy. And we know, like, when a king is going or any important person is going, right? Even right now, we have a president, we have prime ministers. They don't go alone. They go with the entire troop of people. And that entire troop of people, if they are just going with the troop of people, even when God comes, he goes with his entire troop, right? And so he comes with his associates. So Nityanand Mahaprabhu, Advaita Acharya, Srinivas Pandit, and Gadadhar Pandit, they all come with him, and so many other disciples, so many other associates of the Lord. We as we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we know so many people come together, right? So the Lord comes with his associates and he tricks us, right? He tricks us to receive this love of Godhead. He, like we say in Krishna consciousness, just come and just have prasadam, just chant, and that's all we want. But you see, after a few years, you just give yourself completely, right? And that's what Krishna is. That's what Krishna is. He steals butter, right? So we actually, our hearts become so soft at some point that he steals our heart. Like that we are at a point that we cannot go back into material world, and we are here to stay, right? So it was just you just come and you chant and you do this, but we've given ourselves completely at this point, right? And so it's a conspiracy theory that they call, that Mahaprabhu did, right? He tricks us to receive the love of Godhead. So like I was mentioning, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, he mentions that the seed, right, the seed of this entire movement is Madhavendra Puri. He puts the seed, and then the trunk is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And from this trunk, there are two main branches. One is Advaita Acharya, and the other one is Nityananda Mahaprabhu, who are his main associates. So from the seedling of Madhavendra Puri, we've got a tree who was fully grown up and blossomed. And that trunk of that, the main pillar is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And the two main branches are Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Mahaprabhu, who are his main associates. See, what happens is, a lot of time, even me, when I speak about a lot of stories and to make, that just draws attention and whatnot. But, before we understand the Leelas of Advaita Acharya, we have to understand the Tattva, right? Like, what is he? And actually, the next verse is Tattva, which was not assigned to me. But basically, probably it will be spoken the day after. But we have to understand that, how, what is the whole tattva behind it? What's the whole principle behind it? Because if we don't understand, then you meet anyone, right, in India, or you meet even in US, but mostly, like I've seen in the Indian culture, that not many people like Krishna. Why? Oh, because Krishna has 16,000 wives. Like, what kind of God does that? What like kind of God has so many wives? What kind of God goes and dances with the gopis in the night? What kind of God, he tricks others? What kind of God lies, right? Or what kind of God tells other person to lie? Because they don't know the tattva, they don't know the principle behind Krishna, and that's why they doubt. Similarly, when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are so many pastimes that doesn't make sense to us because we don't understand what is the tattva behind that, right? We don't understand the technicality behind it. And I understand it's a little boring to understand the technicality, but it is so important to understand. That way we can understand the pastimes. We can understand the pastimes of Lord. So, so if you see in the Panchatattva, we have three Prabhus. We have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhu is a master, Prabhu is a Lord, right? So he's the greatest of the Lord, Mahaprabhu. Then we have Nityananda Prabhu, and we have Advaita Acharya. So we have three Prabhus, and then we have two Pandits. We have Gadadhar Pandit and Srivas Pandit, right? So we have two Pandits. So we have the devotee and the devotional energy of the Lord. Now, what happens is we come to Krishna consciousness and we first explain, oh, there's always one God, We always say, oh, there is one God. So, and then as we go in and we start understanding, then we say, oh, but there's God, and then there's Panchatattva, and they all are God. And what is this polytheism, right? So we grow up understanding that there is so many gods. There is Krishna, and there is Shiva, and there is Brahma, and then there are so many goddesses, and there are so many different incarnations. And then we come to Krishna consciousness. We understand there is one God. And then again, as we dig deeper, then we realize that, oh, there are so many different gods, right? So everybody on the Panchatattva um, aspect, they all are gods. They all are important, right? But like we see in the incarnations of God, the God is fully potent, or fully potent. But all of the different incarnations, they might have all of the potency. Like Rama has all of the potencies as Krishna, and there are some incarnations that might have limited potencies. So that's very important to understand that all of the figures on the Panchatattva are, as they're God. They're not demigods or anything, but they're the expansions of God. So talking about Advaita Acharya, um, he's a combination of Sadashiv and Mahavishnu, right? So he's Hari and Har. He's a combination of Hari and Hara, right? Hari and Har, Har which is Shiva, and Hari which is Vishnu. Now, um, so Advaitya, right? When we say Advaitya, that means he is not different from Hari, and Acharya means he's a great teacher. So they're not Jiva Tattvas, like I mentioned, not demigods. They're directly Supreme Personality of God. And we see, what does Mahavishnu do, right? Mahavishnu creates the entire cosmic manifestation. And how does he create it? He impregnates the material energy. And how does he do it? Does he personally do it? No, he doesn't personally do it. He does it through Shiva, right? So that's what Advaita Acharya is. He is a combination of Sadashiv and combination of Mahavishnu. Now we also have to understand that there is a Sadashiv who is also a Gopa in Golok Vrindavan, and he's Krishna's cowherd friend. Um, so we have to also understand that how did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appear? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared because of Advaita Acharya, right? And why do we call him Acharya? Because he was a very pure devotee. And what he did was he worshipped Shaligram Shilas. He saw that the material nature was advancing so much. So he had Shaligram Shilas, and he worshipped them with Tulsi and pure Ganges water. And by worshipping that, he would scream a lot. Like when I'm reading about Advaita Acharya or I'm hearing about him, he had a very huge voice. Very he like it's called, what is it called? Actually, I had that word written down somewhere. Um, when we scream for mercy, and that's because of his screams, because of his callings, because that's why the God appeared, right? There's also one story that I read, that when Advaita Acharya was young, his father was working at the king in the king's palace, and Advaita Acharya would play with the son of the king, right? With the Yuvraj, he used to play. And one time there was some conflict between both of them, and Advaita Acharya screamed so much that the prince, he fainted. Like, we never hear typically that somebody screams and somebody fainted, right? Somebody can beat somebody and that person can faint, or somebody can push somebody and that person will faint. But just by screaming, the prince fainted, right? And that's when they moved back to Shantipur. So you can see that he always had this like he used to scream for mercy, he used to scream, and he had a very big, huge voice. And with that voice, he was calling out to the Lord. And we know stories after stories, like how Krishna is satisfied just by one leaf, right? When I was speaking at the temple, I was talking about how one leaf can satisfy Krishna compared to all of the jewelry that the queens of Dwarka had, right? We know that story when Narad Muni was taking away Krishna, and all of the queens, like even Rukmini, all of their jewelry was put on the other side in a tarazu. But when they just put a leaf, that balanced out everything, right? So one leaf of Tulsi is so potent. So he was continuously worshipping the Lord with Tulsi and Ganges water and asking him to descend so that they can, to give love of God, and for the mercy, so that we all can get mercy. Um, Also, one more thing about him is he had two wives, but I think we can talk that in the Leela avatar, that he has two wives. His wife's name was, um, uh, and we'll talk about that in the Leela avatar. But I'll just go back and I'll talk about all of his pastimes right from his childhood. So Advaita Acharya, he was born to Kuber Pandit and Nabha Devi, and he was born in it's a place called Laura, and which is now in Bangladesh. And his father was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and he was praying for Lord Shiva to Sadashiv that uh, to please come as his son. So actually worshipping him for many years, Sadashiv actually appeared to his father, to Kuber Pandit. And when he appeared, he said, I would like you, someone like you, to be my son. And then Sadashiv said, well, there is nobody like me. So I'll myself appear as your son. So Sadashiv appears as the son of Kuber Pandit and Nabha Devi. And that person is Advaita Acharya. So when he was born, he was extremely beautiful. He had beautiful eyes and he was called Kamalaksha, right? Somebody who has eyes like the lotus, and that's why he's called Kamalaksha. He was very scholarly, very beautiful. When his parents passed away, he went to Gaya to perform the rites for his parents. There's also one thing I think, as we go through all these leelas and pastimes, we also have to understand the learnings for us, right? What are the teachings for us? What also the concept happens is, oh, we come to Krishna consciousness means we have no obligations to anyone. We just do bhakti. A lot of devotees think like that, right? There's a misconception like that. But you can see also how all these acharyas behave. Like when his father passed away, Advaita Acharya went to Gaya and he performed the ras rites. So similarly, if we also should be responsible for the duties that we have towards our parents, our children, our husbands, our wives, our relatives, or whoever that is, and make sure that we do those duties properly. Because Advaita Acharya also goes to Gaya. We know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to Gaya after his father passed away to do his last rites. There is also a very special pastime about Madan Gopal deities in relation to Advaita Acharya. So the Madan Gopal deities, Advaita Acharya used to chant under a tree, and Madan Gopal deities appear to him, and they say, "Oh, we have been hiding in this and this place." So he goes and discovers Madan Gopal deities. So Advaita Acharya is actually the person who goes and gets the Madan Gopal deities, and then he passes them on to Purushottam Chobe. And this Purushottam Chobe has a special relationship with Madan Gopal deity. So they have a son, and they're also treating this Madan Gopal deity as their own child. So the son is playing with him. They're treating him like the child, right? And then when Sanatan Goswami it goes there, he's astonished. He's like, this is Krishna himself, like the self-manifested deity of Madan Gopal, and you're behaving like that with him. Sometimes they're not even brushing and they're cooking for him. They're just treating him like a child. But then the Lord goes in the dreams of Sanatan Goswami and says, I don't know why you had to do this to me. Why did you have to go to Purushottam Chobe and tell him all this? Because now they're so scared, because they're now treating me like a deity, and all of the fun that I had is all gone. But at the same time, Krishna goes in the dream of Purushottam Chobe, and he says, I would like to get service from Sanatan Goswami. And that's how the Madan Gopal deities go with Sanatan Goswami, and they're called as Madan Mohan later on. And then we know the main important deities, the Madan Mohan deities, that we have. So he plays a very important role, Advaita Acharya, in the Madan Gopal deities discovery. So Advaita Acharya was basically born in 1434, and he passes away in 1559. That makes him 125 years old. So he really lived a very long, wonderful life. He lived in Shantipur and Navadip. So actually, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born after when he was 52 years old. So Advaita Acharya was 52 years old, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like we know, took initiation around the age of 25, that means he was 75 years old. But we hear Advaita Acharya dancing in kirtans and doing so well. So fortunately, he had very good health, and he lived for 125 years in very nice way. And like I was mentioning, he had two wives. One was Sita Thakurani. She's an important personality in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then we also have Sri Devi, who's expansion of Sita Thakurani. Um, and we know that beautiful pastime of when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born. Sita Thakurani comes, and she basically brings all of these wonderful items to welcome Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how she greets them. Um, yeah, so earlier I was trying to remember the word, the how Advaita Acharya calls out for the Lord. The word is called hunkar. Hunkar is a Marathi word, I thought, but it's also, I've understood that it's also a Hindi word. So hunkar means he's really calling out loudly. And that's that loud cry, actually, Krishna listens to that loud cry and he comes down, right? So Advaita Acharya, he gets married. He's living in Shantipur. He had another house in Navdeep. He opens a school, so he's actually an acharya. He's teaching, teaching the students, right? That's what he did most of his life. Um, and we have to see that Madhavendra Puri, who initiated Advaita Acharya, and Madhavendra Puri had a disciple, Ishwar Puri, and he was initiated by, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initiated by Ishwar Puri. So technically, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was Advaita Acharya, was like, you have a guru and guru's god brother. He was like that. So there was always that respectful relationship that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with Advaita Acharya. So actually, when Madhavendra Puri, we know the beautiful pastime, and I'm not going to go into that he goes to get the chandan for the deities, and that's when he's going, and that's where he meets Advaita Acharya, and he initiates Advaita Acharya. There's also a very important pastime of Advaita Acharya in relation to Vishwarup, right? So Vishwarup is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's brother, and like I mentioned, Advaita Acharya is having a school. He's teaching his Acharya, and Vishwarup is very attracted to Advaita Acharya's teachings. So he's often going there and understanding from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from Advaita Acharya about all the different philosophies. And what happens is he's so impressed by this philosophy that he decides to take sannyas. And we know that when he decides to take sannyas, Jagannath Mishra, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dad, and Sachi Mata, they're heartbroken, right? Um, they're very heartbroken. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also like in close association with Advaita Acharya, and he's thinking of taking initiation, Sachi Mata at that time, mentally, okay, she is wise enough not to say this to anyone, but mentally, she makes an offense and she says, Advaita Acharya, I know your name is Advaita, but you're actually Dvaita, right? Advaita means you're not different from God, but actually Advaita, that means that one who splits, right? And you split my older son, and now you're about to split my younger son. Now, she doesn't say this to anybody, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, is in the heart, right? He's also in the heart of Sachimata. And he knows that she has said this. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proclaims that very clearly and loudly that Sachimata will not get love of Godhead. And Sachimata was like, why will I not get love of Godhead? And he says, because you have made an offense to my very pure devotee. And I think that is such an important lesson for us. Again, we have a Leela where, we have Sachimata herself committing an offense to a Vaishnava, and, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not accepting that. And this is a mental offense. So many times we do offenses by speaking, we have feelings, we have so much going on in life about devotees or non-devotees. So we should be so careful of not saying something about a devotee or thinking wrong about someone, right? And even if she's mother of the supreme personality of Godhead, she will not get pure love of Godhead. So can you imagine how that is? Right now we have Sankranti going on. So we are Maharashtrian, so there's a lot of Haldi Kumkum events that are happening. So this over the weekend I was invited for a Haldi Kumkum event, and we were sitting. I was sitting with a group of females, and one of the females started talking about a third person who was not even in that group, and telling something about this person and about their life. And I'm like, why do you care? Why they are doing it? They're not coming to you for money. They're not coming to you for any guidance. They're not coming to you for any help. They're their life, and let them live their life, right? Why do you have to judge them, or why do you have to make a comment about them? And and I don't want to go into preaching mode with them, but it says that ordinary people, they talk about events. No, ordinary people talk about other people. And then one level up is people talk about events, aisa hua, vaisa hua. And the topmost is when you talk about ideas, you talk about philosophy, you're talking about how you can better your life. So we have to figure out whose association we take, and we have to figure out what we are saying about other people, because that will cause problems to us. We have also seen in Dhruv Maharaj's case that, yeah, and I actually, even before going to Dhruv Maharaj's case, I want to say that we think, oh, this is a devotee, so I should not do any offenses to him. But what about non-devotees? Because the non-devotees can become devotees. And Dhruv Maharaj is a perfect example over here. Like you see in Dhruv Maharaj's case, his brother, he did offense towards him when he was not a devotee. But when Dhruv Maharaj became a devotee, he suffered a lot. Like I think there was forest fire, if I remember, and he died in that. So we can see that any person, maybe a devotee or non-devotee, we should not speak ill about them, in front of them, behind them, in our mind even, because whatever we think, whatever our mind is saying, eventually it will come on our lips, right? And we'll say something to them. So I thought this was such a big lesson for us, that Sachi Mata will not get love of Godhead because, she committed that offense against Advaita Acharya. However, Advaita Acharya once is listening to the pastime, and he goes in complete trance, and he's on the floor, and Sachi Mata goes and touches his feet, takes the dust on, puts on her head, asks for forgiveness. And, and that's how her aparat is forgiven. And I also feel that, it's not about going and touching somebody's feet and taking that dust. What actually that means is making that change, making that change in yourself. Like there was just recently, there was some devotee said something, and I kind of stood up for myself, and I said, you cannot speak to me like that. You cannot say this. So this devotee then comes back and says, I want to touch your feet, Mataji, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I don't want you to touch my feet. That means nothing to me, right? We say, sorry doesn't help. Sorry doesn't help. You have to make sure that you treat me and any other female respectfully. That's what should be done, right? It should not be like coming back and saying sorry to me. That means nothing. That means changing your heart, right? Changing your heart. That is what is important. Giving respect to other people. Touching feet means nothing, right? But it is said in this context that she touches the feet of Advaita Acharya and takes his dust, and Advaita Acharya forgives her. I mean, actually, he doesn't even know, right? This offense is done. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows that she's changed in her heart. So that transformation should happen in her heart. It is not about showing other people, not about sending a sorry note or whatever. It's about actually making that transformation in our heart. So we don't judge anyone. In this judging, I have such a good example here. I had a boss one time, and he was in such he was he had such a tough life. His father had left him. He had when he was 3, and his mom was literally cleaning houses, and that's how she raised him. He went to community school and whatnot. And when he was telling me about this, and I was like, oh no, that must be terrible, and I don't know why your father did that. And he said, oh, I don't judge him. I don't judge him. Whatever he did was he did what he did. And I felt like that was so important, that this person has, because of this person who left him and his brother at the age of 3, and his mom has worked hard jobs, he still doesn't have, he doesn't still want to say anything bad about his father, right? About this person who changed him. And then you see people who do so much for the other person, and still the other person is not talking good about the other, good about that person, right? So I think that actually that was a point that transformed me. And this person is not a devotee, nothing, but I learned that big lesson from him, that don't judge anyone. Like, even if that person has done something bad to you, don't judge him, don't say anything bad about him, because we don't know what shoes they were in at that time. So that is so important to have that perspective in life. All right, so we have 15 minutes left, so I'm going to keep on going. I have a couple more points to talk about. Advaita Acharya, again, had a very wonderful relationship with Haridas Thakur. We know Haridas Thakur was a Mohammedan, he was a Muslim, but he was extremely good devotee of the Lord. And he basically, when Advaita Acharya's father passed away, and he called all of the Brahmanas to have prasadam, he basically gave the main plate to Haridas Thakur, kind of announcing it to everybody else that you are the chief guest here. Like, even if he was, not born in a traditional family. And I think that's how our perspective should be, that, even if somebody's rich, poor, somebody's whatever proclamation they have, we should actually make sure that we see how, what their relationship with Krishna is, and treat that devotee in a very respectful way. That I felt that was very important from this pastime. The other one pastime that I know, like what I read about and heard about was, like I was mentioning, Advaita Acharya was initiated by Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri had initiated Ishvara Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initiated by Ishvara Puri. So technically, Advaita Acharya would treat, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would treat Advaita Acharya as if he was his guru, because he was his guru's god brother. And that just hurt Advaita Acharya a lot in his heart, right? He would just be very disturbed about that, because he's like, no, I want to be, you have to treat me as if I'm your associate. So what happens is, Advaita Acharya wants to just so that he gets some kind of reprimandation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, goes and starts talking about Mayavad philosophy. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu learns that Advaita Acharya is speaking about Mayavad philosophy, he's just outraged. He's super angry. And what he does is he actually comes there where Advaita Acharya is speaking. Like I said, Advaita Acharya has a school where he's preaching this Mayavad philosophy, and he actually beats Advaita Acharya. He takes a stick and he beats him. And Advaita Acharya is just getting the beating, and he's on the floor, and the Sita Thakurani is like, stop, what are you doing? What is doing? He's such an old man. Why are you beating him? But Advaita Acharya is ecstatic, because he's getting the correction from Mahaprabhu. And for us, that is such an important lesson, that sometimes if we get correction from some other devotee or anybody, we get offended, right? It's not even on our mind that we are that it's not even on our mind that if somebody's, first of all, oh, how can they do this to me, how can they do that to me, how can they correct me? But Advaita Acharya was a person, he teaches us that when we get correction from our seniors, correction from the Lord in any way or form, we should be so ecstatic about it, and so ecstatic about to accept it. So I felt that was so profound, a great lesson that we can learn from this philosophy. Even if he's getting beatings from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's ecstatic about it. And that's what we should try to imbibe in our spiritual life as well. And then Advaita Acharya, like I mentioned, he has two houses, but he would go and meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the Chaturmas month. When the Lord, like I mentioned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came because Advaita Acharya called him. But also when the Lord has to finish the pastimes, his close associates go and tell them that, Lord, now the purpose for which you have come, that is satisfied. And if you're so willing, you can go back to your dham. Like when Ram Leela happened, and when Krishna's Leela also happened, like I think during Ram's pastimes, Brahma comes and tells Lord Ram that the purpose for which you have come, that is fulfilled. And if you so will, my Lord, if you so will, you can descend back. So Advaita Acharya does that. He goes and tells Mahaprabhu that the purpose is now accomplished. And if you may desire, then you may descend. So he is the cause for the Lord to come, and as well as he indicates to the Lord that it's time for you to go, to descend. Right? The Lord is always with us, but it's also time to end your pastime. So Advaita Acharya does that. So I feel that, remembering Advaita Acharya today, chanting some bhajans of him is so important tomorrow. There is fasting for half a day. If possible, please go to the temple and engage in any devotional service you can tomorrow. And I would like to wrap up. We do have like 8 minutes left. I would like to end, even if there are questions, by 8 o'clock. I'm early nap sleeper. I have to wake up at 3:45 for my chanting. if I sleep late, it impacts my chanting. So if there are any questions, we can take one or two, or comments, feedback, corrections for whatever I've spoken, and we can end at 8. So I'll close and I'll open for any questions we may have. Any questions? Is everybody around? It was too straightforward.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Anjana Mataji.
Yes, very nice class, Mataji. You gave so many, like you picked so many topics and you covered in so less time. And it's very like good info the way you started with all those sadhus, sannyasis, and then you wrapped up with the Advaitacharya information. Very nice. Like need to learn more about it. I will. Thank you, Mataji.
Sure, Mati. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
And have
Krishna.
nice journey, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, it's yeah, it's going to be austere, is what I'm hearing. A lot of people there. I think it's like millions of people. So please give your blessings. Pray for me.
Sure, Mataji. Now I feel like it's getting crowded, and I think in February, that's how it's going to be because people were waiting for a bit like better temperature. And so be safe, Mataji, and
Yeah.
bring the Mahakumbh Jal if you can.
Yeah, sure, Mataji. That's what I'm planning to bring that jala, like take a can from here. I don't know if it'll be available there, but I'm traveling with the devotee family. So and we'll take all the precautions. So yeah, and we're not going on the Mahasnan days. That way it won't be that crowded because the big days are very crowded and a lot of rush there. So we're trying to avoid that.
Sure, Mata. Thank you. Have a nice and safe journey.
Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, corrections? Okay, Shweta Mataji is saying Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Have a safe journey. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Please give your blessings. Keep me in your prayers. That's what I can request everyone.
Kantaji, nice class, and you have a safe journey too.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Need your blessings. Okay, Prabhu. I think there are no more questions, so we can wrap up. Simeshwar Prabhu, are you still there? Okay, he's not there.
He may be busy.
Yeah, I know. So what do? We just end the call? We all leave and
Yeah,
we all said that?
we do the prayer and then go.
Okay. All right. So
Vancha kalpatarush.
Thank you, everyone.
Safe travels, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Need your blessings. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.